don't know how this got sent into my feed, but I'm checking it out. We're still thirsting over DL men. Let's check it out. DL men after lying all day. Bro, what?
The term DL has been all over our screens lately. Once a survival strategy for black and brown men navigating the perilous intersection of queerness and cultural identity has now been romanticized into a fantasy.
Romance.
DL culture has become a social media phenomenon.
DL men.
DL man.
DL man.
DL man.
TikToks about DL hookups amass thousands of views.
20,000, 30K likes, 36K? Dang.
Tweets declaring that DL men just hit different, garner thousands of likes. Trauma has now been repackaged as desirability. The DL man is everywhere and nowhere. He's the guy who locks eyes with you at the gym for a moment too long. He's your friend's cousin who gets weirdly nervous around you. He's in your digital spaces, just beyond reach but close enough to pursue. For many queer men and some trans women, he represents the ultimate prize. The straight-presenting, emotionally repressed, hyper-masculine dreamboat who just might be secretly into you. But DL men aren't the prize.
Bro, I ain't gonna lie, bro. I feel like I'm falling into some type of rabbit hole. Okay, let me see. What's going on here?
They're symptoms of a broken system.
Let's hear about
that still punishes queer visibility. And every time we romanticize them, we chain our worth to men who would rather hide than claim us. So if the closet is a cage, why are so many of us still trying to climb back inside with a man who's locked himself in? Gays? Let us discuss.
Let's talk about it. Let's hear it.
Hello, bananas. Khumo Markham here, and welcome back to my YouTube channel where people watch me speak about whatever crosses my mind, and I am okay with that.
But I ain't gonna lie, bro. This outfit is fire, though.
First, I want to say thank you so much for all the love of my previous video. It has left my little bubble and reached so many more people than I anticipated. So
congratulations.
Welcome if you're new here. I hope you love it. I hope you continue to interact and grow with me. I've seen all of the recommendations that you have and all the videos that you want to see, and I promise I am working on them. And second, in regards to some of the comments that I received in my previous video, I feel like I have to make this disclaimer. This video, like every other one on my channel, is very nuanced. It can be viewed and discussed through various perspectives. And I'm just one person presenting it through mine. So you are allowed to disagree with me. That is why we're here. Always feel free to check me. That comment section is yours as much as it is mine. Anyway, with that said, let us get into this video. With our current TikTok feeds being flooded with content from the DL Whisperer and the rising fascination and conversations surrounding this subculture, I thought it'd be great for you and I to fully dive into the DL man fantasy in full cultural, emotional, and social context. So grab a drink and let us get into it. The term DL, short for download, typically refers to men who engage in same-sex relations while publicly identifying as straight, often maintaining heterosexual partnerships and rejecting gay or bisexual labels. Rooted primarily in African American and Latino communities, the DL identity is defined by secrecy, hypermasculinity, and a deliberate distancing from queer culture. To understand this,
so it's men that they're like so straight that they're gay. Got it.
Dynamic, we must first unpack why men stay in the closet in the first place. For many, the choice is not purely internal. It functions as a survival response to structural violence. Think homophobic families, religious pressures, cultural taboos, and physical danger. For black and brown men, especially where hypermasculinity functions as both social currency and protection, queerness threatens their perceived strength and community standing. I mean, with religious teaching.
You know what? That actually makes way more sense. Like, I never thought about it from that perspective, right? Like, we have the tribe, we have the black community. Of course, we already got people that don't like us because we are black. So we want to portray this image that we are tough. I ain't gonna lie, bro. I've met a lot of gay people that are tough as hell. Like, they really be boxing people, like, in the streets. So I don't know. I think we gotta rethink about this, even though they be sucking dick. But you know, it is what it is. Some people suck dick, some people don't.
Queerness threatens the perceived strength and community standing. I mean, with religious teachings condemning homosexuality and cultural norms demanding traditional masculinity, openly identifying as gay or bi risks everything from ostracism to violence. The DL identity exists at the intersection of race, class, religion, and gender, making it not just about sexuality, but about navigating systematic oppression. But it's also important to note that not all DL men are trapped. Let us be real, okay? Not every closeted man is DL, and not every DL man is simply closeted. There's a distinction worth making. A closeted man acknowledges his gay or bisexual identity privately, often hoping to eventually eventually come out. While both of these men conceal the same-sex behavior, the DL man often goes a step further by actively constructing a heterosexual persona to preserve cultural status. He doesn't just hide, he builds a life
Yo, that's
dependent on
crazy.
denying his queerness through girlfriends, wives, and children. This distinction
Is it on purpose? Is that on purpose? Or is it, did they say subconscious? You say subconscious?
a life dependent on denying his queerness. Preserve cultural status. He doesn't just hide, he builds a life dependent on denying his queerness through girlfriends, wives, and children. This distinction reveals why my compassion for the DL man sometimes falls short. It's not a protective response to oppression all the time, but can become a strategic choice that prioritizes masculinity and community acceptance over authenticity. While closeted men might conceal their identity temporarily until safety permits coming out, DL men view their lifestyle as a permanent strategy, okay? They leverage heterosexual proximity to maintain dominance, avoid accountability, and distance themselves from visibly queer people or queer culture as a whole, often weaponizing this identity. They choose the closet to maintain straight privilege while still accessing queer intimacy, wanting the pleasure without the social cost. When seeking openly gay men, they impose very strict boundaries. No emotional connection, no public acknowledgement, no community.
So, you know, they'll keep it on the down low. They'll come and see you every so often. You know what I'm saying? They'll probably get your number. Or basically, it's kept on the down low. Nobody really says anything about it. If you see them during the daytime, which sometimes you do, you don't really, you know, let them know. You know, you don't really notice them in the daytime. You might give them a little eye.
Only in the night.
You'll see me next week. You'll see me tonight.
Next week.
This calculated deception and exploitation is where my compassion reaches its limit, but that does not seem to be the case for many of y'all. So let us discuss why so many out gay men and some trans women are drawn to these unavailable, emotionally repressed figures. This fascination begins with the fetishization of the hypermasculine image, particularly in Black and Latino communities where, like I've mentioned, masculinity is a cultural cornerstone. DL men embody traits like dominance and toughness, presenting as straight passing figures who reject the perceived femininity of queer labels. A 2016 study in the Journal of Bisexuality noted that behaviorally, bisexual Black men often distance themselves from gay identities to align with these norms, making them appear as the ultimate masculine ideal to some gay men who view them as a rare trophy in a world that equates queerness with weakness. This hypermasculine allure is then amplified by the thrill of secrecy, which casts DL men as forbidden fruit. And let me tell you right now, we love a good forbidden fruit, okay? Especially when it's sporting a trimmed goatee, living in a bare bones apartment with just a mattress on the floor, giving you fire rounds while whispering in your ear, "You're the only boy I do this with."
What? I ain't gonna lie, bro. I'm falling into a rabbit hole, bro. Huh?
You have no other choice but to soak it all up because you know you have to be out of that apartment before sunrise, as he cannot risk anybody seeing you leave, honey. That is an experience, okay? Sorry, I started reminiscing there, but it is this rush that we romanticize when describing the secret hook.
Because it's so like socially forbidden. That's the rush in doing this. But the interesting thing about it, from my perspective, right? I'm fine with everybody just being themselves in general. But I understand there's a lot of people that don't like that, or they can't socially do that, or culturally they cannot do that. So I understand the many different aspects of it. That being said, when you're also treating it like it's this bad, it's this serious, like you can only have this intimacy at nighttime at specific moments, and you gotta leave at like 3 a.m. Ain't nobody else outside. I mean, when you guys are doing it like that as well, it's like, where is the ability to actually have progression into having society just accept you for being gay, or accept you for being trans, or accept you for being DL or whatever? Like, if you're not, and I'm not saying like actively like say like gay pride, but something that's like, you know, just you're considered normal. You're just walking down the street together. You're just hanging out together. I don't know. Again, of course, this is my perspective from somebody that's mostly just observing. I don't really, like, I have many trans friends, and I could talk to them about it, but at the same time, it's like, I'm making this video so I can truly get more perspectives in general. So if you have anything you'd like to share, leave it in the comments below. I'd love to read it.
hookups with men who live double lives. Yet this thrill is fleeting as DL men prioritize a straight image over any emotional connection, leaving their sexual partners with nothing more than transactional encounters. And this is just me generalizing because I know that there's some of y'all that end up having long-term relationships with DL men.
Really?
I don't know how y'all do it, sweetie, but it is this excitement of secrecy that feeds directly into the fantasy of conversion, where DL men become the ultimate conquest, the challenge of turning an unattainable figure into a queer partner. This hope fueled by the ego boost of unlocking hidden desires is perversive in queer communities, with some gay men believing that they can be the one to help a DL man embrace his true self. The myth here is powerful, that under the surface of any emotional close friendship with a straight man is the potential for something more, if only we're patient enough, alluring enough, or safe enough for him to come out. It's not entirely irrational. I mean, in the world where queerness...
No, that doesn't sound irrational, but at the same time, like, I hope people aren't, and they probably are, but I hope people aren't, like, building these relationships off those false pretenses, right? To be like, oh yeah, I'll be your gay friend, but secretly you want to turn them out. I don't know, man. I don't know, but again, it's temptation, and we all have our vices. I judge, but I don't convict. You know, we all live in this world, this life of sin, it's suffering, blase, blase. But I do like to get to understand the perspective or hear the perspective. It's eye-opening, bro. It's awakening. It's enlightenment.
Is still criminalized, bullied, or punished, the line between the straight man and the DL often feels blurred. Many queer people know the pain of watching somebody repress their identity out of fear. Many have had relationships with men who couldn't fully show up for them in public. Ding, ding, ding. Okay, I went to a dominantly Muslim school, and being one of the only 4 openly gay kids made me somewhat of a beacon for these questioning boys. For those I did have exclusive relationships with, it sucked watching them grapple with their identity, because while our friends were kissing under the bleachers or gifting each other roses for Valentine's Day, we could only show each other affection behind closed doors with the hopes that maybe one day I'll get to hold their hands in public. But that never happened. So I know firsthand that the fantasy of the DL man is partially rooted in compassion, a desire to witness someone's becoming, but it's also rooted in ego. I mean, to be chosen by a man who rejects everyone else but makes the exception for you?
Yeah, good luck.
That's power. That's a kind of validation that for those who grew up unloved or unwanted due to very unaccepting environments becomes addictive. However, this dynamic is corrosive. DL ideology doesn't just affect romantic relationships, it begins to reshape how gay men relate to straight men entirely. When the line blurs, every compliment from a straight guy, every moment of accidental intimacy, every shared bid on a boys' trip becomes charged with potential meaning. This breeds a form of emotional overinvestment. Platonic friendships are no longer safe spaces for vulnerability or companionship. They become speculative markets for repressed queerness. And it's getting worse. Part of what inspired me to make this video is a now deleted tweet that I came across that reads, "You want that straight guy? Quickest way to make a straight boy question his sexuality is by becoming his #1 best friend. There's so many guys that blur the lines when you're a bro that will get him off."
Bro, that's not cool. That's not cool at all. I see why the tweet is deleted, bro. Like, you're over here inserting yourself in other people's lives in order to try and change their sexuality or open their sexuality. Bro, imagine if the roles were reversed. Like, people coming into your life to try and change your life. That's not cool, bro. Like, you should come into somebody's life to try and add value. Or maybe just, I don't know, you guys are friends just to be friends. That's so strange, bro. I see why it's deleted. That's crazy.
Excuse you? Some of y'all are not actively seeking friendships with straight guys, not for the sake of connection, but because you view straightness itself as a puzzle to be solved. The idea is no longer what if he's gay, but how can I make him want me enough to realize he is? In other words, this obsession with DL men is starting to turn us into predators. Okay, let's call a spade a spade. Intentionally cultivating friendships with straight men in the hopes that they'll slip up or reveal queerness is manipulative. If a straight man befriended a lesbian woman with the goal of trying to convert her or make her straight for him, it would be
That's
seen
crazy.
as predatory.
That's crazy, bro.
So why then should we, in queer circles, shrug this behavior off as harmless? What makes this worse is how often it is
Preach.
disguised as emotional intimacy. A gay man may become a straight friend's confidant, therapist, emotional crutch, not because he values the friendship, but because he's hoping to be there when the mask cracks. Every bro hug, every drunk moment, every cry for help becomes reinterpreted through the lens of maybe. That is not friendship. That's emotional labor performed in bad faith. And do not get me wrong, we're not wrong for having desires. Desires are
We all
natural.
have
We've all fallen
desires.
far straight, bro. It's the canon gay experience. But the problem begins when desire turns into
Huh?
entitlement. The belief that you are owed reciprocation because you've been there for someone, or that you deserve a reward for loving someone in secret. That logic echoes the very systems of toxic masculinity and
Yeah, it is
coercive
toxic.
behavior that we often criticize in straight men. At its worst, the pursuit of DL men turns into a queer version of pickup artistry, reading signals, ignoring boundaries, seeing no as maybes, and believing that
That's
persistence
dangerous.
equals
That is
progress.
very dangerous.
It's becoming weird. And all because you want to be railed by a masked guy. Are masked gays not enough? Again, I do not fully blame y'all for thinking this way.
Good
This
question.
dynamic
I
has
don't
been
know.
amplified by the media we consume. After all, the DL phenomenon gained major visibility in the early 2000s through sensationalized media portrayals. Talk shows like Maury, Oprah, Jerry Springer, they all capitalize on
Jerry.
the shock value of download revelations, typically framing them as explosive betrayals of unsuspecting women rather than complex expressions of identity. These programs
It's
didn't
been
just
used
expose
as
the private
entertainment.
lives of closeted men, they turned those lives into circus acts, complete with gasping audiences and moral outrage. The secretly gay storyline became a commodity, a cheap thrill sold to viewers under the guise of concern. Even when media tried to approach the topic seriously, nuance was rarely the goal. The DL man was cast either as a predator, he's secretive, he's dangerous, or as a tragic figure in need of salvation, waiting for a
Oh
patient
wow.
level to pull him out of the closet. And yes,
Wow,
we've
wow,
had works
wow.
like Noah's Ark or Moonlight that dared to treat the DL experience with emotional depth, with tenderness, with cultural specificity, but these are exceptions. Mainstream portrayals have mostly flattened DL men
Such
into
as art.
stereotypes. We've never had a healthy conversation about them, only scandal or silence. Then came social media. Platforms like YouTube and later TikTok gave us, for the first time, access to first-hand stories about
So you
DL
can
men
understand
told
it
by the
more
very gay men who
from their
have encountered
voices.
them. And to be fair, it didn't begin in bad faith. If you were online during the 2010s, you probably remember those grainy ass bedroom videos of creators like He Flawless recounting late night hookups or tender heartbreaks with DL boys. These story times were messy, they were honest, they were
I could tell, like, bro, that definitely was old school YouTube. But hey, that's really cool to hear that even in old school, like, even back then, I wasn't watching anything like that. I was watching gaming videos, right? But to hear that there were people online back then, even back then, like, talking about their sexuality and, like, the stories of what they've gone through being themselves, like, I ain't gonna lie, that's really dope, bro. That's very inspiring. I love that. I love to hear people being able to come out and just talk about their life in particularly and how that shaped and affected them, and even encourage people that watched it to express themselves, bro. I love that, bro. That's beautiful.
often hilarious.
Shout
They
out to
were
art.
about us, our experiences, our longing, our frustrations. They were not instructional guides. They weren't invasions of privacy. They were storytelling. And
Yes,
it was fun.
we
But
love
like everything that
storytelling.
starts off good on the internet, it quickly escalated into something not so good. We now find ourselves in an era
Reverse.
of virality chasing content creators who
Yes.
have built entire brands around the performance of decoding and exposing supposedly DL men. Take creators like the DL Whisperer or Anwar the dating coach. I've also seen him do this a couple of times. Their content hinges on the promise that with the right tactics, you too can pull a closeted man out of hiding and into your bed. Suddenly,
That's
it's no longer
dangerous.
storytelling, it's strategy. There
Yeah,
are
that's
videos
very
with thousands of
dangerous.
views purporting to teach you how to spot a DL man by the way he sits, the way he speaks,
Oh,
or
brother.
glances across a room. Others claim to offer
Psychology.
foolproof
So they're using psychology to try and figure out people's sexuality. Again, that is a very, very dangerous game to play, because in your mind, in your idea of socially or psychologically evaluating somebody for your own personal pleasure, you might end up doing that to the wrong person and having your entire life just shattered. Please be careful. And this is for everybody. This is not just like for DL men. This is for every person in general that are trying to study like psychology or anthropology or the study of philosophy or thinking or being a human being. As soon as you start using that ability of understanding yourself or seeing signs or seeing patterns or pattern recognition to use that to try and get somebody else, you're playing with the devil. And usually the devil wins because the game was rigged from the start. So please be careful.
Conversational techniques that will get a straight guy to crack. Sexuality has become a puzzle. Consent has become optional, and queerness, once something that we fought to express freely, that we're still fighting to express freely, mind you, is now something that we are encouraged to coax out of people who haven't even given us permission to speculate in the first place. The shift is not just ethically murky, it's outright dangerous. These creators, perhaps unknowingly, are feeding rhetoric that mirrors the worst of what the religious right has said about queer people for decades, that we are groomers, that we are manipulators,
You're falling
that we are
into
obsessed with converting the
their
innocent.
trap.
When TikTokers casually discuss unlocking straight men like they cheat codes in a dating sim,
You're
it
proving
hands
their point.
ammunition to anyone who's believed in the myth of gay recruitment. The right wing doesn't have to dig up so-called proof for their homophobic
You're
fears.
just creating it.
Creators are posting it for them.
You're making
in
proof.
HD, in trending audios. And what is more disturbing is that this DL discourse is now mutating into something even uglier. We are now seeing the violent actions of straight men being reframed as evidence of repressed queerness.
What?
I mean, at this point, we are all familiar with
You're
this
crazy.
narrative
You're
that
deluding-
people, especially men, who
Bro, at that point, you're deluding yourself. You want to believe this fantasy that other people are just queer and gay and they want you. You're deluding yourself to the point where acts of violence are considered, oh, yeah, no, he really does like me or he's really into us. You're insane.
commit
You're
hate
insane,
crimes
bro. You're
are
insane.
doing
That's
so
it.
because they are
Get some help.
battling sexuality themselves. We are used to this narrative. It's tired, and I've been
crazy.
sick of it for the longest time. But we are now seeing it being reframed as, oh, if he hit that girl, a straight man, mind you, if he hit that girl, it's because he's gay and hates women.
What?
Literal domestic abusers are being labeled DL by default, as if queerness is the cause of their misogyny.
Bro, and even if you wanted to believe that was true, that does not help your idea of getting the DL to come out, or your fantasization of the DL man. That doesn't help. That makes it worse. That actively makes it worse. Oh my goodness. What is going on?
He's cheating on you all the time because he likes
gay.
men. He's treating you like that because he likes men.
Hey, look who is giving out this information. Y'all be careful with these snow bunnies, I'm telling you.
He's fighting with you all the time and competing with you because he likes men.
This kind of logic is insidious. Not only does it pathologize queerness, it absolves straight men of their actions. And this is being packaged and fed to majority of women I've seen being the audience of this, especially homophobic women who can now pass off all of these traits that they do not like about the men in their lives as just them being DL. If he paints his nails, if he has close male friends, he has good hygiene, if he wears a crop top, if he's emotionally unavailable, if he's physically abusive. But some people are now saying, well, it's because he hates himself and he's gay. That is what this conversation has become.
Oh, wait.
Let us be crystal clear. Abuse, violence, and misogyny are not symptoms of queerness. They're symptoms of patriarchy. And blaming gay men, whether closeted or not, for the horrors committed by violent straight men does nothing but protect those men from accountability. Worse, it reinforces the very systems that harm all of us. Yes, it turns queerness into a scapegoat. Systems. It turns our trauma into their excuse. This is what happens when we do not talk about DL identities with
you should
care.
have the conversation.
This is what happens when fantasy is allowed to mutate into entitlement. And when storytelling becomes a spectacle. In chasing the thrill, we've completely lost the plot.
Yep.
So how do we find the plot again? First, we can start by no longer engaging with this type of content. Stop watching these TikToks teaching you on how to spot a DL man. Stop sharing these viral tweets about secret hookups with men who don't claim you. Stop celebrating content creators who built their entire platforms on outing or speculating other people's sexuality. Every view, every like, every share makes us complicit in turning trauma into entertainment and commodifying somebody else's struggle.
Yo, you are freaking cooking. Khumo Markham, you're cooking.
The next step is to look within.
Yeah,
okay, let's shift this perspective. The DL man is not a challenge to be conquered or a prize to be won. He's a human being navigating systems of oppression that we should be dismantling, not exploiting.
Wow.
Our obsession with him has gone too far. It's time we release ourselves from it. Free us. Okay, time we let go of the fantasy that we're special enough to turn someone. We need to start asking ourselves, why are we willing to accept scraps of affection delivered in darkness when we deserve love that stands in the light?
Oh my god, bro! The kitchen has been burnt down. Oh my goodness, and that's absolutely true. Why would you settle for a DL man when you can have a honest, open, gay relationship? Yeah. And I get it. It's the chase. You want that DL guy, but that's just you're going more for a lower vibration. You're going for just primal nature when you chase that versus an actual healthy relationship built with communication, trust, empathy, and openness. And that's for every human being. Every human being should strive for more of an open, accepting relationship. And of course it's a lot harder. I'm not going to say like a straight relationship and a gay relationship, these are both equal when it comes to what society looks like. Look, society is us. We are society. So we do need to actively change to be more accepting of everybody in society, not just the people that are winning already. Okay, everybody can have their pieces of society and we can all live amongst each other. But it takes more open communication and understanding of each other inside each faction for the first part. So like this DL stuff, like I didn't even know anything about this rabbit hole until this came across my feed, right? But to hear that this was going on, I mean, bro, I'm glad that there's somebody out here in the community that's able to actually articulate the perspective well enough that other people outside of that area of expertise can actually talk about it. And in me hearing it, now I have the understanding to correct people if someone has something to say about anything about gays or how they might be weaponizing or hunting people down. I can have this video as an example. Like, sure, there might be bad people that are doing this, trying to turn people out, but then there's also people in that said community trying to actively change that to make it a better place, so we don't have to worry about that from the outside. And I would love to see more of this in other communities as well. That's how we change and fix society while working together. We need to fix our stuff first, and then we can start fixing other things. So, for sure, as a community, start having these conversations, these very difficult conversations. And if you have to, start kicking people out of the community, of the group, and have them do their own thing over there. But make it so everybody realizes, hey, if that's what you're into, they're over there. They're not in the actual community group. They have their own splinter faction, because there's always going to be a splinter cell of any faction. It's normal.
Why are we willing to continuously accommodate men who want our bodies but never our personhood? We deserve more than stolen moments and secret texts. We deserve somebody who chooses us in the daylight with people around.
Real shit.
And I'm not saying stop creating safe spaces for your straight and questioning guy friends. It's the canon gay experience at this point, like I've said. But if they are meant to come out, and if they do come out to you, let it not be because you cracked some code or you wore him down. Let it be because he found the safety, the strength to choose himself. Queer love deserves to be loud. It deserves to be honest. It deserves to be whole. And it is time that we accept that DL men are not the prize. We are.
Yeah, you'd have
and
to
that
be
is
the
all
prize.
I have to say. In fact,
Yeah. You'd have to be the prize.
I could say more. We could discuss a lot when it comes to this topic, but I'm going to end this video right here.
Yeah,
okay? Do let me know all of your thoughts down below. I love you guys, and I will see you guys in the next one, which is coming a lot sooner than you expect. Okay?
Oh, word?
Remember, if you do not slay, then you do not stay, and that's on period. Bye.
I don't know what you just said. If you don't slay, you don't stay. I don't know what that means, but hey, I like the Pomu ring puff headband. So yeah, definitely fire. I didn't know what to expect walking into this, but I am glad I left with a whole new perspective and understanding on what it is for people that are questioning their sexuality, man. And to hear that there's actually a community of people that are trying to make it better. Oh, I love to hear this, man. Like, I just love humanity. That's all I care about. I care about our species trying to actually work together because we should be working together. That's the whole entire point of our species, bro. Like, people like to separate by a lot of different factors and factions of humans. Bro, we're just human beings. That's it, bro. We got to figure this shit out, bro. We got to figure this out, okay? It's your boy KhunShawn. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any other video you want me to check out, anything that involves the conversations in general, I love conversations. I'm a communication master, you feel me? We just yap. So let me know what you guys want me to yap about next, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.